The desert was silent except for the whisper of the wind moving over endless dunes. For centuries, the golden sands of Egypt had hidden secrets that no one could explain. But today, something stirred beneath them. A strange energy pulse rippled through the ground and vanished before any satellite could track it. The pulse repeated again after 1 hour, just strong enough to be noticed by a nearby human research station. The machines there started blinking with strange readings. Commander Rian, a calm and intelligent explorer, stood before the main console inside the base. His sharp eyes studied the flickering data on the screen. "It is coming from under the desert floor," he said slowly. "Something buried deep below is sending this signal." His assistant, Mira, frowned as she checked the monitor. "It is not natural. The energy signature is too clean. It looks like technology, but no human machine works like this." Ryan nodded. He had worked in archaeology and exoplanet research for many years. He had seen strange things, but never anything like this. The coordinates of the pulse pointed to an uncharted part of the desert, where no pyramid or ruin had ever been recorded. He contacted the World Science Council and got permission to lead an expedition. Within a few days, a small team of scientists, engineers, and archaeologists stood ready near the edge of the vast sand sea. The journey into the desert began at dawn. Their vehicles moved across the dunes like metal beasts, the sun turning the sand into rivers of gold. The team was silent most of the way, each person lost in thought. They all felt the weight of mystery pressing around them. Something ancient was waiting ahead. After several hours, Mira noticed something odd on the scanner. "Commander, the ground here is hollow," she said, pointing at the screen. "There is a massive chamber under us. The readings go down almost 200 meters. Ryan ordered the team to stop. The heat outside was fierce, but they worked with determination. They set up sensors and drones to scan deeper. As the drones moved under the sand, strange interference filled the air. Every machine's display began to flicker, and their communication link weakened. The team exchanged nervous looks. Then one of the drones disappeared from the radar completely. When it reappeared seconds later, its camera showed a smooth stone surface far below, engraved with symbols that glowed faintly. Rian leaned closer to the screen. "Those are not normal hieroglyphs," he whispered. The carvings looked like Egyptian symbols mixed with shapes no one had ever seen, curves and patterns that resembled the geometry of advanced technology. As the sun began to sink, the team set up camp near the site. The desert air turned cold and the stars filled the sky. The local guide, an old man named Hassan, sat by the fire with them. His face was lined with years of desert life, and his voice carried the tone of old legends. He said quietly, "You are near the chamber of eternal night. It is said that long ago, a pharaoh made a pact with beings from beyond the stars. They gave him power to rule even after death, but when his greed grew, they sealed him and his treasure beneath the sands where no sun could touch it." The group listened carefully. Mira smiled softly. "A legend, right?" "Every ruin in Egypt has one." Hassan did not smile. "Legends come from truth," he said simply. "If you wake what sleeps there, you must be ready to pay the price." Ryan thanked him for the warning but remained firm. "We are here to uncover history, not to disturb it. Whatever is down there has been calling us. Maybe it wants to be found." That night, as the wind howled through the dunes, Rian stood outside the tents looking at the stars. He felt something in the air, a vibration that touched the edge of his thoughts. It was like a whisper that said, "Remember us." He looked down at the sand and wondered if the desert was alive in its own silent way. The next morning, work began at sunrise. Machines dug carefully into the sand while scanners mapped the underground chamber. After several hours, a layer of ancient stone appeared. It was not a normal tomb wall, but smooth and metallic in some places. The blend of materials was unlike anything ever found before. Mira ran her hand over the surface. "It feels warm," she said, surprised. "Almost like it is alive." The rest of the team gathered around as Ryan studied the carvings. He noticed a repeating symbol of an eye surrounded by stars. Below it were words written in both Egyptian and another language that no one could translate. Suddenly, one of the machines stopped working. The lights dimmed. Every electronic device began to flicker, as if a great wave of invisible energy had passed through them. The air filled with a low hum, deep and rhythmic like a beating heart under the sand. Everyone stepped back, alarmed. Mira checked the instruments and shouted, "Commander, the readings are going off the charts. It is generating its own power. The pulse is stronger now." Ryan took a deep breath and made his decision. "We are going in. Prepare the entry team. The team cleared a circular section of stone, searching for a hidden mechanism. After hours of effort, Mira found a narrow line across the wall shaped like an ancient door. She placed her hand on it, and to her shock, the stone responded. The carvings began to glow softly, and the ground trembled. With a slow grinding sound, the doorway opened, revealing a dark tunnel leading down into the earth. A rush of cool air came from below, carrying the scent of metal and dust. The tunnel walls shimmered faintly as if tiny particles of light moved within them. Ryan switched on his helmet lamp and looked down the passage. "Stay close," he said. "No one goes alone." The group descended one by one, their footsteps echoing through the hollow stone path. The deeper they went, the colder it became. Strange symbols glowed faintly on the walls, casting long shadows. Every few steps, the tunnel branched into sealed doors covered with strange marks. After what felt like hours, they reached a large circular chamber. The ceiling was high, with shapes that looked like stars and constellations carved into it. At the center of the room stood a massive stone gate, far older than anything they had seen so far. Mira looked around in awe. "This place was built by hands that knew both earth and sky," she said softly. Ryan nodded. "This is not only Egyptian work. There is something more advanced here, something that does not belong to any known age." He raised his scanner, but again the readings made no sense. It showed both solid and hollow matter at the same time, as if the gate existed in two realities. The hum in the air grew louder and then stopped suddenly. Silence filled the chamber. Then, without warning, the symbols on the gate began to move. They shifted like living lines, forming a new pattern. A faint light spread from the center outward until the whole gate glowed with a soft golden shine. A deep voice echoed through the room, not from any speaker but from the walls themselves. It spoke in two tones, one human and one metallic. The words were clear. "Children of the stars, you have returned. The treasure of eternal night awaits the worthy." The team froze. Mira's eyes widened. "It spoke," she whispered. It actually spoke. Ryan stared at the glowing gate, his mind racing. "Record everything," he ordered, though his own voice was shaking. This could change human history. Hassan, who had followed them halfway down, fell to his knees. "You should not have come here," he said, trembling. "The night remembers. The Pharaoh's promise was never broken." Ryan helped him stand. "We have not come to steal or destroy. We came to learn." But deep inside, even Ryan felt the weight of something ancient pressing against his thoughts. The voice had called them children of the stars, and what did that mean? Were humans part of something larger, something forgotten? He looked at the gate again. The light pulsed gently like a living heart. The patterns around it seemed to form a map, perhaps leading deeper inside. He knew the next step would be dangerous, but he could not stop now. The sands above had hidden this secret for thousands of years. Now it was awake again, and humanity stood at its door. Rian turned to his team. "We rest tonight," he said quietly. "Tomorrow we open the gate." As they climbed back up the tunnel, the chamber dimmed. The symbols slowly faded and the hum returned, steady and patient. It was as if the chamber itself was waiting, knowing that the true test had not yet begun. Outside, the night wind blew softly over the dunes. The stars shimmered above, watching in silence. Beneath them, the buried heart of the desert pulsed once more, waiting for humanity to remember what it had forgotten long ago. Morning came quietly over the desert. The golden sun rose behind the dunes, spreading soft light across the excavation site. The camp was still, except for the low hum of the machines and the gentle sound of the wind. The previous night's discovery had left everyone restless. None of them had truly slept. They had found something impossible, something older than any record of human civilization. Commander Ryan stood near the entrance of the tunnel, watching the horizon. His eyes were heavy but focused. The words from the mysterious voice echoed again and again in his mind. "Children of the stars, you have returned." What did it mean? He had heard myths about humans being guided by visitors from the heavens, but this was different. The voice was real. It had spoken directly to them. Mira walked up to him, holding her datapad. "I have checked the recordings from last night," she said. The energy reading increased by 300% when the gate spoke. The sound wasn't just a vibration. It carried a signal inside it like a code. Ryan looked at her screen. "Can you decode it?" "Not yet," Mira said, shaking her head. "The pattern looks like an ancient frequency mixed with something like quantum data. I have never seen anything like it." Behind them, the rest of the team prepared equipment. They were going back into the chamber. The air around the tunnel entrance seemed slightly cooler than before, as if the underground structure was breathing. Old Hassan watched them with worried eyes. "Commander," he said softly, "the gate opened because it wanted you to enter, but not every door should be crossed." Ryan respected him, but he had made his choice. "We came here to understand the truth," he said. "If this chamber was built to protect something, we must find out what that is. If it is dangerous, we will stop it. That is our duty." With flashlights and scanners ready, the team descended once more into the darkness. The tunnel walls shimmered faintly as before, but the glow seemed brighter now, pulsing like veins of light under stone. When they reached the main chamber, the great gate still stood at the center, glowing with a soft golden hue. Mira began setting up her devices while two engineers unpacked cables and small drones. Ryan touched the surface of the gate. It felt warm again, but this time the warmth moved through his skin like a pulse. The symbols rearranged themselves under his hand, and a faint humming sound filled the air. "Commander," Mira said quickly, "the gate is responding to your presence. Your body is interacting with it somehow." Ryan stepped back, unsure. "It feels alive," he said quietly. Suddenly the gate opened without warning. A circular section of stone slid backward, revealing a vast corridor lit by floating orbs of light that hovered in the air. The orbs moved slowly, forming a glowing path deeper into the structure. The team stood in silence for a moment, stunned by the sight. Mira whispered, "It is guiding us." Ryan nodded and raised his lamp. "Stay together." We moved forward carefully. The group followed the glowing path. The corridor walls were made of smooth metal mixed with carved stone, like an ancient temple fused with futuristic design. Strange patterns of stars and constellations glowed faintly around them. As they walked, the light grew softer and more blue. After several minutes, the corridor opened into a massive chamber larger than any hall they had ever seen. The ceiling rose high above, covered in carvings that resembled both Egyptian art and alien geometry. At the center of the room floated a dark crystal sphere about the size of a human head, surrounded by thin golden arcs that pulsed with energy. The entire team froze in awe. Mira slowly stepped forward. "This must be it," she said. "The treasure of eternal night." Ryan stared at the sphere. The surface was black like the void of space, yet it shimmered with faint points of light as if stars were trapped inside. A gentle hum filled the air, calm but full of power. The rest of the team spread around the chamber, scanning and recording everything. One of the engineers, Leon, placed a small sensor near the pedestal. "The energy output is incredible," he said. "It is like the core of a reactor, but far more stable." Ryan studied the walls. They were covered with carvings that told a story. In one image, a pharaoh stood beside tall, glowing figures with long hands and bright eyes. Above them was a ship that looked like a floating temple. Another carving showed a dark storm falling from the sky while beams of light protected the earth below. He realized that these carvings were not about myths. They were records of history. Humans had once worked with visitors from beyond the stars. The chamber was proof of that connection. Mira found another symbol near the pedestal, written in both Egyptian and strange alien letters. She read the translation slowly. "It says the light within the night. Power to guard the world. To awaken it is to face your reflection in eternity." Ryan repeated the line softly. "Face your reflection in eternity." It sounds like a warning. Before anyone could respond, the floating orbs around the chamber began to move faster. The hum deepened. The dark crystal sphere brightened suddenly, releasing waves of light that filled the room. The energy hit their scanners, causing them to flicker and fail. Leon tried to turn off his device. "It is overloading everything," he shouted. Mira shielded her eyes. "Commander, it is reacting to us. It can feel that we are here." Ryan stepped forward and raised his hand. "Stop," he said. "Do not touch anything." The moment he spoke, the light slowed. The hum softened again, becoming almost musical. Then a new sound filled the air. A voice, soft but powerful, speaking in the same mixed tone they had heard before. "Children of the stars," it said, "you have found what was once ours. The Pharaoh made his promise, and the treasure has waited. Only those who remember the unity of the sky and the earth may awaken it." The voice faded and the sphere dimmed until only faint light remained inside it. Mira's hands trembled. "It can communicate. It is alive in some way." Rian nodded slowly. It may not be alive like us, but it is aware. He looked at the team. The voice spoke about unity. That means it wants to see how we work together. Maybe this treasure is not a weapon or simple object. It could be a test. The idea made everyone uneasy. Hassan stepped closer, his expression full of worry. "Commander, you should stop now. The Pharaoh sealed this for a reason. It was never meant to be opened." Ryan looked back at him. "If it is meant to test us, then it means it believes we can succeed. We must understand what this is. Humanity has always feared the unknown, but fear cannot stop discovery." He took a step closer to the dark crystal. The sphere reacted immediately. A faint beam of light extended from it and touched his wrist. The light formed strange symbols on his skin that glowed for a few seconds and then faded. The air grew heavy and everyone felt a pulse in their minds, as if the chamber itself had entered their thoughts. Mira gasped softly. "Commander, it is linking with you." Ryan felt no pain, only a strange calm. His mind filled with flashes of images, stars, ships, and cities made of light. He saw people standing beside tall beings, both working together to build something beautiful. Then he saw darkness covering the stars and a wave of destruction moving through space. The vision ended quickly, leaving him breathless. He turned to Mira. "I saw something," he said quietly. "The ones who built this place tried to protect Earth. They faced something powerful in the sky, and this treasure was their last defense." Mira looked at the crystal sphere. "Then it is not only a treasure, it is a weapon of protection." The floating orbs around them dimmed again, and the voice returned. "The treasure sleeps until the true bearers of light awaken it. To touch without understanding brings only eternal night." Ryan understood the warning. It means only a united human will can activate it. If we use it for greed, it will destroy instead of protect. The chamber fell silent again. The hum faded into a low whisper, and the lights returned to normal. The team stood in quiet awe. They had come expecting to find gold or artifacts, but they had found something much greater, an ancient alliance, a reminder that humanity was not alone in the universe. Ryan looked at the glowing crystal one last time. "We will not touch it again," he said. "We will study the language and find the right way to communicate with it. Whatever this is, it was meant to guide us, not to be taken." The team gathered their equipment and began their way back to the surface. As they climbed the tunnel, Mira glanced back at the chamber. The floating lights were moving again, but slower now, almost as if watching them leave. When they reached the surface, the sun was setting, painting the sky in deep orange and gold. Ryan looked across the dunes, silent and thoughtful. He knew they had awakened something that had slept for ages. That night, as the stars rose over the desert, the buried chamber pulsed softly beneath the sand. The crystal sphere glowed faintly, releasing waves of invisible energy into the sky. It was waiting, as if it knew the time of awakening was near, and that humanity would soon have to face the truth hidden within the eternal night. The sun had barely risen when Commander Ryan gathered his team near the excavation site. None of them had slept well after what they had seen in the chamber. The dark crystal, the glowing symbols, and the voice that called them children of the stars had shaken every person there. The desert was quiet, but the air carried a strange energy. The sand around the tunnel entrance now showed faint patterns like ripples frozen in time. It looked as if the ground itself had been touched by the power beneath. Ryan looked over his team. Mira was busy checking her equipment while the engineers repaired damaged scanners. Hassan stood near the trucks, whispering prayers under his breath. The old guide still believed the place was cursed. Ryan broke the silence. "We need to understand the meaning of the message we heard yesterday," he said. That voice spoke about unity and worthiness. It might mean there is a test or a system built to judge those who enter. We need to be ready for anything. Mira nodded. "I have been reviewing the data all night. The energy readings from the crystal follow a pattern. It behaves like an intelligent system. It was observing us, measuring our actions and our emotions. I think it wants to see how humans react under pressure." "That means we are being tested already," said Leon, one of the engineers. "What if the chamber is watching everything we do?" Ryan looked toward the tunnel. "Then we make sure it sees the best of us." After hours of preparation, they returned to the underground path. The tunnel lights flickered again, responding to their movement. As they entered the main hall, the golden glow of the gate welcomed them. The dark crystal still floated at the center of the inner chamber, calm and quiet as if waiting. When Ryan stepped forward, the air shifted. The gate behind them closed slowly with a deep rumble. The sound echoed like thunder. Mira turned quickly. The door sealed itself. "It wants us to stay," Ryan said, his tone calm. "That means it has something to show." The symbols on the walls began to glow in sequence, forming patterns like flowing lines of light. The air filled with a soft vibration. A voice spoke again, this time clearer and stronger. "Those who seek the treasure of eternal night must prove their light is stronger than their shadow. Only then may you carry the burden of the stars." The team looked at each other in silence. The voice faded, and the light from the walls formed shapes that changed into symbols of people, hands, and hearts. A soft beam of light shot from the crystal sphere and divided into 5 smaller rays, each touching a member of the team. The room changed instantly. The stone walls dissolved into an open space filled with swirling mist. The floor became smooth glass, reflecting their faces. They were no longer in the chamber, but in a strange, endless hall of light and shadow. Mira gasped. "Where are we?" Ryan looked around slowly. "It feels like we are inside the test. Maybe the chamber created this place through our minds." As he spoke, the mist around them moved, forming scenes from their memories. Mira saw herself as a young student working in a small lab, struggling to prove her worth. Leon saw his childhood home destroyed in a storm. Hassan saw his youth in the desert, watching his father search for lost ruins. Each vision brought emotion and pain. Rian felt something cold touch his chest. In front of him appeared an image of his old mission, a failed rescue where he had lost friends years ago. The sight made his heart heavy. The air thickened as the voice returned. "The past is your weight. Tonight remembers every fear and every regret. To hold the treasure, you must see yourselves clearly." The light around them shifted again. Shadows rose from the mist, forming copies of themselves. Dark reflections that looked exactly like them, but with cold, lifeless eyes. Mira's reflection spoke with her voice. "You seek knowledge not for truth, but for pride." Leon's shadow said, "You hide your fear behind your work." Ryan's reflection stepped closer and said in a steady tone, "You failed once and you will fail again." The real Ryan stood his ground. "I failed before, yes," he said firmly. "But failure teaches us to rise again. If this chamber tests our hearts, then it will see that humans do not give up." The reflection paused and slowly faded. Mira took a deep breath and said, "I do not seek pride. I seek answers to protect life." Her reflection vanished as well. One by one, each team member faced their inner reflection. Hassan was the last. His shadow said, "You fear the unknown because it takes away your control." The old man smiled faintly. "Maybe I do fear it, but faith is not about control. It is about trust." His reflection disappeared into the mist. The air brightened. The mist began to rise and swirl into a column of light. The voice spoke again, now calm and warm. "The strength of humankind is not in perfection, but in unity. You have faced your shadows. Now face the code that guards the path of stars." The light column turned into a pattern of glowing symbols floating in the air. They looked like a mixture of ancient hieroglyphs and alien mathematics. The team gathered around. Mira stared at the symbols. "It looks like a star map," she said. "But some of the points are wrong. They are not the stars of our galaxy." Ryan pointed at the center. "Maybe it is a code that connects the chamber to another place. The energy signature might be a gateway or a link to the builder's homeworld." They began to study the glowing code. When they moved closer, the symbols shifted like living things. Every time Mira tried to record them, they changed again. It was as if the chamber wanted them to solve it through understanding, not machines. Hours passed as they worked together. Ryan noticed that when they spoke calmly and cooperated, the symbols aligned more clearly. When they argued or doubted, the patterns broke apart. Mira realized it too. "It reacts to our emotions," she said. "It wants us to stay united. That is part of the trial." Slowly they aligned the symbols, connecting stars and shapes into one large pattern. When the last line connected, the whole chamber filled with light. The mist vanished and the solid walls returned. The crystal sphere began to spin slowly, glowing brighter. The voice returned, stronger now but peaceful. "You have passed the first trial. The code of unity is complete." The Pharaoh once made the same journey, but his heart failed him. He chose power over balance, and darkness claimed his name. You, children of the new dawn, have remembered the truth. The crystal released a pulse of blue light that spread through the chamber. For a moment, everyone felt warmth and peace. The walls began to display moving images, stars connected by lines, forming what looked like a great network across space. Mira's eyes widened. It is a map. These lines show different worlds. Maybe the ancient ones built a system of energy across the stars. Ryan nodded. And Earth was part of it. The map glowed brighter, showing one point that pulsed stronger than the rest. It was near the center of the network. That must be the heart of the system, Ryan said. The source that powers everything. The light slowly faded and the chamber returned to calm. The great gate at the back of the room opened slightly, revealing another passage filled with darkness and faint golden dust floating in the air. Leon stepped forward but stopped when Ryan raised his hand. Not yet, Ryan said. We rest first. This trial was only the beginning. Whatever lies ahead will be more difficult. Hassan looked at the dark tunnel and whispered, The Pharaoh failed there. His heart turned to shadow. Be careful, Commander. Ryan nodded. That is why we go together. No one faces it alone. As they prepared to leave the chamber for the night, the crystal sphere dimmed again. But inside it, faint shapes of light moved slowly like stars waiting to awaken. Outside, the desert was quiet and calm. The sun was setting again, painting the sand red and gold. The wind carried a low hum, as if the desert itself had started to sing softly. That night, Ryan dreamed of the map he had seen. He saw stars connected by bridges of light and heard a voice saying, The key lies within the human heart. When he woke before dawn, he knew the real journey had just begun. The chamber of eternal night had tested their strength, their trust, and their unity. Now it would test their courage, and somewhere in the depths of the earth the next trial was waiting, patient and eternal. The golden chamber pulsed with light as the last code on the wall faded away. The air trembled around Ryan and his team. Mira's eyes widened as she saw a figure rising from the center of the room. It was not made of flesh or shadow, but of pure light. The shape was tall and regal, its head crowned with symbols that glowed like fire. The team stepped back in shock. The figure spoke in a deep and calm voice. Children of the new sun, you have awakened the chamber of eternal night. Ryan held his breath. The figure's face became clear, revealing the features of Pharaoh Nefer. His eyes glowed with wisdom and sadness. He looked at each human as if he already knew their souls. Mira felt her knees weaken under his gaze. Ryan spoke with steady courage. Are you the one who built this place? The figure nodded. Yes, I was once the ruler of this land, long before your history began. But I did not build this alone. My hands worked with those who came from the sea of stars. Together we shaped this chamber to protect this world from the darkness that travels between suns. The team listened in silence. Even the air seemed to freeze around them. Pharaoh Nefer raised his hand and the walls shifted. A vision appeared, images of Earth thousands of years ago. Strange ships hovered in the sky, their forms glowing like silver birds. Beings with long limbs and bright eyes stood beside humans, teaching them how to carve stone and build temples. These were the visitors, Nefer said. They came when the world was still young. They shared their knowledge with us and gave us the power to defend our home. The treasure you see before you is not gold or jewel. It is the core of a weapon and shield. It bends darkness into light. It can protect this planet when the sky itself turns against it. Ryan's heart raced. So the treasure of eternal night is an energy device? The Pharaoh's voice echoed softly. Yes, but it is also alive. It needs a will to guide it. The one who touches the core must give part of their spirit to control it. Without that, the treasure will consume everything. The team exchanged uneasy looks. No one wanted to be the one to touch the dark crystal. Mira turned to Ryan. You cannot do this alone. There must be another way. Ryan shook his head. If it is meant to protect Earth, we have no choice. Suddenly, the ground began to shake. The ceiling cracked and dust rained down. The energy within the crystal sphere grew brighter, pulsing faster. The machines inside the chamber hummed like an awakening beast. The Pharaoh's image flickered. The seal is breaking. The world beyond calls for the treasure. You must choose now, human. The night will not wait. Ryan stepped forward, his boots echoing on the stone floor. The energy around him shimmered, making the air thick. Mira tried to stop him, but he gave her a calm smile. You once said we came here to uncover the truth. Now we must protect it. He placed his hands on the golden pedestal beneath the crystal. A surge of power hit him like a storm. The light swallowed him whole. His body lifted slightly from the ground, his eyes glowing like molten gold. The team watched helplessly as streams of light moved through his veins. The walls of the chamber responded to his heartbeat. The hieroglyphs around the room shifted, forming symbols of stars and constellations. The entire structure came alive, humming in rhythm with Ryan's pulse. Mira shouted, "Ryan, can you hear me?" He answered weakly, "Yes. I see everything. The chamber is showing me the sky. The worlds beyond." Pharaoh Nefer's voice filled the chamber again. "You are now the keeper of the eternal night. The power will flow through your spirit. You must guide it with purpose or it will destroy you." Ryan's mind filled with visions of galaxies and dark storms moving through space. He saw massive waves of cosmic energy approaching Earth from afar. Waves that could strip life from the planet. The treasure was reacting to that threat. He focused his thoughts. "Protect Earth, use the darkness as shield," the crystal responded. The light turned into a deep shade of blue, then silver. A beam shot upward through the pyramid roof, piercing the desert sky. Outside, the sand swirled like a tornado as a column of light rose into the heavens. Satellites orbiting Earth suddenly detected a strange surge. A ring of dark energy spread from Egypt, covering the planet like a faint mist. It was invisible to the human eye, yet strong enough to deflect the deadly radiation that had been approaching for weeks from a dying star nearby. Inside the chamber, Ryan trembled. His body glowed brighter, his mind flooded with alien knowledge. Mira reached out to him, her tears mixing with the dust on her face. "You have to stop. You'll burn yourself out," he smiled faintly. "It's all right. I can handle it." This is what it wanted, to connect with a human heart. The energy began to calm. The chamber's hum softened into a slow pulse. The cracks in the walls healed, sealing themselves. The crystal floated gently back onto the pedestal. Ryan collapsed onto the floor, breathing heavily. Mira and the others rushed to him. His skin was warm, his heartbeat strong, but his eyes had changed. They now carried a faint glow of silver light. The Pharaoh's image appeared one last time. "It is done. The treasure has answered your call. The darkness will now serve as your planet's guardian. But remember, its power is bound to your will. If your spirit falters, the balance may break." Ryan nodded weakly. "I will remember." The hologram began to fade. "Then my duty is complete. The age of the pharaohs ends and the age of the stars begins." With those words, the figure vanished into dust and light. The team helped Ryan to his feet. They could feel a soft vibration beneath their boots, like a heartbeat echoing from the earth. Mira turned toward the exit. "We need to get out before this place closes again." They moved quickly through the long tunnels, their flashlights flickering as the energy around them shifted. The once bright corridors began to darken, the walls slowly turning back to stone. When they reached the surface, the night sky had changed. The stars seemed brighter and the air carried a strange calm. Ryan looked up, his eyes reflecting the silver light of the moon. He could feel a gentle pulse in his mind, a connection to the treasure deep below. It was alive and peaceful, almost like it was breathing with him. Mira stood beside him. "Do you think it will stay that way?" He nodded. "As long as humanity stays united, it will protect us. But if we forget what we learned here, it may fall silent again." The desert wind swept across the dunes, erasing their footprints as if the earth wanted to hide the secret once more. Behind them, the pyramid's entrance slowly sealed shut. The sand moved like a living wave, covering the stones until no sign of their journey remained. The world above remained unaware of what had truly happened. Scientists celebrated the sudden energy shield around Earth, calling it a miracle of nature. But those who had stood inside the chamber knew it was far more than that. That night, Ryan sat outside the camp, watching the stars. He felt the presence of Pharaoh Nefer and the ancient visitors in his thoughts. Their voices were faint but peaceful. They whispered of unity, courage, and the strength that exists only in the human heart. Mira joined him, holding a small piece of golden stone she had taken from the chamber. "Do you think they'll ever come back? The ones from the stars?" Ryan smiled. "Maybe. But until then, it's our turn to protect this world." He closed his eyes, letting the desert wind carry his thoughts. Deep beneath the sand, the chamber of eternal night rested once more. Its pulse matched that of the earth itself, silent, calm, and eternal. The stars above shimmered brighter than ever, as if watching over the planet with unseen eyes. Humanity had proven itself once again, not through war or greed, but through courage and unity. And somewhere in the vastness of space, the ancient visitors surely knew that the children of Earth had fulfilled their promise. Ryan opened his eyes one last time before dawn. The sky glowed softly with the light of a new day. He whispered to himself, "The night protects the day. The treasure protects us all." And with that, the chamber of eternal night returned to its long, peaceful slumber, guarding both the secret of the past and the hope of the future. The morning sun rose slowly over the golden desert. The sand shimmered like an endless sea of light. The research camp was quiet except for the soft hum of machines that still recorded strange energy readings. The event from the night before had changed everything. The world above had felt the pulse that spread across the atmosphere. Scientists all over the planet were still trying to understand what had happened, but only Ryan and his team knew the truth. Ryan stood at the edge of the camp, his boots half buried in sand. His eyes glowed faintly with a silver hue. He had not slept since the chamber sealed behind them. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw visions of stars and ancient worlds. He could still feel the heartbeat of the chamber deep beneath his feet. Mira walked toward him carrying 2 cups of water. She handed one to him and smiled softly. "You look like you spent the night talking to the stars again," she said. He smiled back. "Maybe I did. They're quieter than people." She laughed lightly, but her eyes were filled with concern. "Are you feeling all right? You've barely eaten." The others are worried. Ryan looked toward the horizon. "I feel different, but not in a bad way. The treasure is still with me. It's calm. It feels alive." Mira nodded slowly. "So it's true then. You're connected to it now." "Yes," Ryan said quietly. "It's part of me. Or maybe I'm part of it. The Pharaoh said it needed a living will to guide it. I think it chose me because I wanted to protect, not control." A soft wind blew, carrying grains of sand across the camp. The sound reminded them both of whispers. Mira looked around. "It's strange, isn't it? After everything, the desert looks peaceful as if nothing happened." Ryan turned to her. "That's the beauty of it. The desert forgets everything, but it keeps the memory hidden deep inside, just like the chamber." As they spoke, a distant hum came from the sky. Mira looked up and saw drones flying overhead. They belonged to the Global Science Council. Within minutes, several landers touched down near the camp. Scientists and officers stepped out, their faces filled with both excitement and confusion. A tall man approached Ryan. "Commander Ryan, I'm Director Halden of the Council. We received your signal and detected the massive energy wave. What happened here?" Ryan glanced at Mira, then back at Halden. "We found something ancient, something that protected Earth. The wave you detected, it wasn't an attack. It was a shield." Halden frowned. "A shield? You mean something generated by the chamber you discovered?" "Yes," Ryan replied. "It's been under the sand for thousands of years, built by humans and visitors from the stars. It woke up when we activated it." The director exchanged looks with his team. "Do you have proof of these claims?" Mira stepped forward and handed him a tablet filled with recordings, energy scans, images of the floating crystal, and the hologram of Pharaoh Nefer. The scientists began to whisper among themselves as they viewed the data. Halden's expression softened. "This changes everything. The shield that spread across the planet has neutralized cosmic radiation that could have caused great damage. The world owes you a great debt." Ryan shook his head. "It wasn't me. It was the treasure. We just helped it wake up." The director nodded. "Still, humanity has been protected. We will ensure this discovery is studied and preserved." But Ryan's tone became firm. "No one must dig it up again. The chamber was sealed for a reason. It must remain that way. The Pharaoh said it would protect the Earth as long as it was not disturbed." Halden hesitated. "You're asking us to leave it buried?" "But the technology is not ours to control," Ryan interrupted. "It responds to human will. If the wrong people try to use it, it could become dangerous." Halden studied him for a long moment before nodding. "Very well. The chamber will remain untouched. We will build a protected zone around this area. The world doesn't need to know every detail." Mira let out a sigh of relief. "Thank you, Director." Over the next few days, the team worked with the council to secure the site. Energy readings stabilized and the desert slowly returned to silence. Yet Ryan felt something deeper growing inside him, a sense of connection to the entire planet. When he closed his eyes, he could sense the rhythm of the Earth itself, as if the treasure had joined his heartbeat to the world's. At night, he often sat alone outside his tent, staring at the stars. Sometimes he heard faint voices carried by the wind. the same voices that had guided him in the chamber. They spoke of balance, of guardianship, and of the endless journey of humankind. One evening, Mira joined him again. She placed a small golden fragment on the sand between them. It was the piece she had taken from the chamber. "I couldn't let it go," she said softly. "It feels like a part of history." Ryan smiled. "Maybe it is. That piece connects us to something far older than any book or record. Keep it safe." She looked up at the sky. "Do you think the visitors will return one day?" Ryan's eyes reflected the starlight. Maybe when humanity is ready to stand beside them, not beneath them. The Pharaoh trusted his people, and so did they. We just have to prove we're still worthy. Weeks passed. The world began to notice changes. The global shield continued to protect Earth from harmful cosmic rays. Weather patterns stabilized. Satellites functioned better than before. Scientists called it the night veil effect, but only a few people knew the real name: the treasure of eternal night. Ryan and Mira were invited to speak at the Global Council headquarters. They shared their findings carefully, avoiding any mention of the treasure's deeper powers. Ryan focused on the message of unity and courage. He said, "The true treasure is not what lies under the sand, but what lives in the human heart. When we stand together, even the stars take notice." The audience stood in applause. For the first time in history, humanity saw ancient wisdom and modern science working hand in hand. After the conference, Ryan stepped onto the building's terrace. He looked up at the moon, feeling that quiet pulse again within him. Mira joined him and asked, "Do you ever regret touching the crystal?" He thought for a moment before replying, "No, it showed me what we can become. It reminded me that our strength doesn't come from power but from the will to protect what matters." She smiled. "You sound like a guardian now." "Maybe that's what I am," he said softly. As days turned into months, Ryan noticed that the connection between him and the chamber began to fade, but not completely. It was as if the treasure no longer needed to draw from him. It had become self-sustaining, watching silently from below. Yet sometimes, when great storms rose or meteors passed near Earth, he felt the faint call again, a whisper saying, "We are here." Years later, the site of the discovery became a restricted zone, marked only by a small monument built by the council. It carried an inscription. "Beneath these sands rests a gift from the stars and the courage of humankind. May it guard us in silence until we are ready to walk among the stars." Ryan and Mira often visited the site together. The desert had changed little, but it always carried the same quiet power. One evening, as they stood there watching the sunset, Mira said, "Do you think the world will ever learn the full story?" Ryan smiled gently. "Maybe someday when they are ready. The treasure doesn't belong to us alone. It belongs to every living being on Earth. Its purpose was never to be worshipped, only remembered." The wind carried their words away, blending them with the soft hum that came from deep within the sand. That night, as stars filled the sky, Ryan dreamed once more of Pharaoh Nefer. The ancient ruler stood before him, his golden crown shining with soft light. "You have done well," the Pharaoh said. "The guardianship of the eternal night is safe in your hands. Remember, human courage is the light that never fades." Ryan bowed his head. "Thank you. We will protect it." When he awoke, the desert was silent, but the first rays of dawn painted the horizon with gold. He knew the Pharaoh's words were not a dream. They were a message. The chamber still watched, waiting for the day when humanity would rise to the stars again. As the sun climbed higher, Ryan and Mira walked side by side through the soft sand. Behind them, the wind erased their footprints once more. Ahead of them lay a world now protected, peaceful and full of promise. The treasure of eternal night had become part of Earth itself, hidden from sight, but alive in every heartbeat of the planet. And as long as humanity remembered its lesson, to stand united to protect, and to believe, they would never again walk alone under the endless sky. The legend of the chamber would live on, whispered by the desert winds and carried by the stars above, a reminder that even in the deepest night, the light of humankind would always find its way home.